Let's introduce this man with the 33rd team. He's been covering the NFL as one of the top insiders, if not the top guy. For us, top guy, when we always love having him on the program, our good friend Jason Cole. Tell us about what's happening with the 33rd team as we get set.
We're a busy place as we get ready for the season. And I'll do my usual, do a little statistical analysis, which dovetails with those who like to say wager occasionally. Not that you would be one of those people, Defo, but not that I'm a gambler, but I know a few of them. Present company at the front of the line.
Exactly.
You're kind of like, when it comes to preseason wagering, it's like C. Everett Koop when he used to issue the warning and say, it's not good for you guys to smoke.
You guys are just dumbasses. Okay? You're just dumbasses. Anybody who bets on preseason football, I mean, it doesn't even qualify for degeneracy. It's like, it's a level below degeneracy. I just have to tell you that. And I know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And I know that you know that.
I would agree with you 1,000% on that particular aspect of wagering. Everybody was saying they were cashing.
The people who lose aren't going to call you and tell you they lost.
That's true.
Nobody calls and says, hey, I lost $1,000 on that.
I haven't cashed in 3 years, exactly.
Nobody does that. You might as well play, Russian roulette with 2 bullets. I mean, like, that's what you might as well.
A 4-chamber gun.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, we made it to a Degenerate Friday edition of the program. Another week zooming by. Mike Lubie Lubitz. You're looking good, Lubie. What have you been out exercising? You got a little sun?
You got a lot of sun. The sun is really strong, and I have a husky, so we meet each other a lot throughout the day.
How many times you walk that dog every day?
6, 5 to 6
times a day?
Well, look, if we had a big yard.
You do have a backyard. I guess you don't have a lot of space outside of that giant pool that you have.
Yeah, there's room for him to run, but it's not like a field. So, like, I feel weird just letting him out in the backyard 4 times a day.
Does he swim? Does he like to jump in?
No, he doesn't swim. Swimming would be great exercise. He does not. He likes water, but he's weird about the pool. I don't know. He's a weird sport.
You ever take him to the beach?
We have not gone to the beach. I do want to take him to the beach. But anyways, yes. I walk him every 2 hours at some point throughout.
Every 2 hours? Wow.
2 to 3 hours. Yeah. He gets these weird energy bursts. And as long as you walk him, he's fine. If you don't walk him, then he starts getting destructive. So
now, is he like, one of those huskies that is pulling a dog sled in the Iditarod where he
was.
Sure.
He was. He's better now. It's fun. It's definitely in his DNA to try and run.
You're not one of those guys that carries the fake poop bag, right? I mean, you actually scoop it up.
No, because it's like a horse. I would feel like a jerk off. Like it's so funny because my in-laws have a poodle, so when we would like have him, I harken back to like the little nub that looks like a rabbit.
A couple of nubs, you just scoop it right up, no problem. I've become an expert at it, man. I mean, it's almost like I could juggle this stuff and then have it drop right in the bag. We should do a video on that, an instructional video. Might be a big hit, Lubie. It might be a big hit. You never know what's going to work in this crap. I mean, certainly conventional stuff doesn't. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Good to have you guys with us. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz.
Hello.
Always a pleasure having you guys with us. Friday, we get excited about because it is a Degenerate Friday. That means the professor will be joining us later on. So we have the proverbial, as Mark Hochman used to say, loaded baked potato here with the big board coming up and all kinds of degenerate activity with college football on the horizon. I would imagine. You think the professor is going to dive into some early preseason predictions?
He explained to me what he's going to do, and I appreciate. I'm looking forward. He's going to break down every conf over the next 3 weeks. Because week 1 is great. Week 0 is week before. Week 0 is like August 23rd. So we have 3 weeks from real.
And there are like a lot of games in week 0 now. It used to be like 1, then it was 1 or 2.
Yep.
Then they'd ship Notre Dame over to Ireland. Didn't they do that last year in week 0? FSU was involved in that ball game, or were they not?
Was a disaster, yes.
I remember, I think this literally kicked off with the Kickoff Classic in 1984, I want to say, when the Hurricanes were involved. I believe they played Boston College. And I just had an interview on Bleacher Brothers with Christine Brennan probably about maybe it might be as far back as 3-4 weeks ago, because she has a book out about Caitlin Clark, where she pulled a Feinstein and followed Caitlin Clark around. I don't know that she did it in quite the same detail as Feinstein did, where Feinstein was literally on the road with the team, the Indiana Hoosier team, the entire time. But I do think she had many, many visits either in or around Caitlin Clark. And then, of course, Caitlin Clark not playing right now and has missed 15 games this year, Louis.
Jesus.
15 games. Not a good time for the WNBA to have their big attraction out of the lineup. But nonetheless, they seem to be prospering. And I'm reading a little betting line today where a handicapper that I have some respect for, Doug Kazarian, who I think was with ESPN for a while in some capacity, and then went on to being a handicapper for whatever it is that they're using as the source of this. Used to be VSIN, but I don't know exactly where that's coming from. See if I can find it. No, not listed there. But anyway, and he's handicapping and analyzing WNBA over-unders. Can you imagine that? When your life is relegated to analyze, but I guess it's like the professor found out with Korean baseball and Australian rules football. Does it really matter what you're betting on if you have some kind of a hang for trying to figure out which side or which total is going to prevail or which of the prop bets are going to be successful? And gets into last night, Lubie. Now, you declared that you would have no interest in the Hall of Fame game. I have to say, I turned it on. I realized it was like starting at 8:00, and I happened to be home, like just goofing around, vegging out on the couch, vodka, grapefruit in hand, and several tokes of some excellent weed that I got from the medical weed dispensary.
Nice.
Remember when you used to hope that your guy came through with something good? Now I mean, the lowest level of crap that they sell you there is just absolutely outstanding.
And my friend and I were talking about that back in college, because there used to be different. Now there's differentiation in the name strands, and they all have these crazy names. And
did you buy the correlations they try to make? Like, well, this will make you really happy, and this will make music sound better.
Oh, maybe that, but like, they did like the purple people eater or the blue monster. Like I don't know. I don't know what those names mean, but we used to have 3 delineations. We used to have regs, used to have mids, and used to have crip or chronic or whatever people call it, like the high level stuff.
This was in your area.
This was just everywhere. I mean, my college, I would go to other colleges, wherever you were. I don't know what happened in the last 20 years. They got rid of the garbage. It's only chronic.
Only high-end stuff.
And it's just, who can be crazier?
It's not getting any brown stuff that smells like it was packed in an orange crate, and it's nothing but seeds and stems anymore.
You never see a seed or a stem. If you see a seed or a stem,
you throw it back in the guy's face. Unbelievable. But so in the midst of a slight stupor, I realized, 8:00. Let's tune in and see what this Hall of Fame game looks like at the very beginning, and if it retains my interest, then I'll watch as much of it as I possibly can stand. As there were some other things I was interested in going on. A lot of tennis action going on, both the men and the women. Playing in Canada, the men are playing in Toronto, the women are playing in Montreal. There's some really good matches taking place the last couple of days, and more on tap today. Some exciting matchups. So I'm back and forth with that, and 8:00, I pop it on, and I have to say, I don't know, the ceremony at the beginning kind of got me a little bit. No, got these Hall of Famers coming out there now. Sterling Sharp is coming out there in a cloud of darkness.
Yeah, it sucks.
Having just, I guess he settled a sexual assault case, and then of course
Shannon Sharp.
Oh, Shannon Sharp got in. Sterling's not in.
No issues, but the problem is,
he was there, wasn't he? Like, didn't he apologize to his brother or something?
I'm sure he's the one that presented him with the thing where they knock on the door.
Yeah,
like what Jimmy did to like Zach or
right,
whatever, or what they did to Jimmy when they did it on air on one of the Fox shows. Like, Shannon was the one that gave him the news, and it was like a big thing, and it was heartwarming, and he was crying because Sterling earned this a long time ago, but he had a really short career. So you know how they punish the guys that have short careers, but he had a really high peak during his career. And it just sucks that he waited a long time to get in, and he gets in, and it's this cloud of darkness because of his brother.
Right. Good clarification there, Libby. Thank you for doing that.
It was not Sterling. It's Shannon's the one embroiled in all.
Yeah, that seemed. I don't know. What was Sterling Sharp? Hall of Fame stature.
He had a really good peak, but it was short. So that's the thing.
Dwight Stevenson was well, that was often mentioned in conjunction with Stevenson, and he only played. Didn't he only play like 5 years, Stevenson? And he's still a Hall of Famer.
It might have been 7 or 8.
Yeah, the injury did him in, but what a fantastic guy, and remains so to this day. If anything, he's evolved into an even stronger and more dynamic presence than he was when he was a Hall of Fame stature football.
Yeah, he played 8 years for the Dolphins.
Okay. So did you tune in the beginning? That's my question, Lubie.
Well, I have to say,
you did it. Yeah,
we were driving back from Landlubbers and had just started, and they had already scored, and I was like, "Yep, there's the Hall of Fame game." So I put it on. I don't know if it's that I've been missing it or not, because I was actually not really missing football that much that I have to watch the Hall of Fame game. But it felt like better football than we've seen in the Hall of Fame game before. I'm not going to lie. Like Trey Lance. Again, I don't know what to do with these performances because of who he's playing up against, but it was the best Trey Lance has looked in the NFL. Like he looked like an NFL quarterback.
Touch passes, yeah. Well, here's my thought on it, and we've been talking about it in many different discussions, including you heard the clip from Jason Cole, who flat out condemns anybody as being criminally insane who bets on preseason football. Now, we did notice there was some line movement in that game. The Lions open up 3.5-point favorites. Chalk players were gargling with milk of magnesia as they were watching their team be decimated with 5 turnovers in the contest. You would have to say, for a team that went 15-2 last year, Lubie, that represented a little bit of slop. And I don't know that you can go ahead and ascribe all of the rationale for that behind the fact that they lost their 2 coordinators. That had nothing to do with it. And if you were betting the game, you had to be in shock thinking, how serious is Dan Campbell taking this when he throws a linebacker back there to return his first kickoff, and what happens on the very first snap? Not even a snap, a very first play of the NFL preseason. There's a fumble. It was Keith Jackson time. There's a fumble. And this guy goes ahead and then coughs up the football, which results in an early touchdown. The over-under story was really the one that I was tracking because of last year's humiliation that I suffered at the hands of many people online. I couldn't believe this when it first happened because NoFilter.net used to really promote on social media a lot of stuff, and they had a bigger reach even after that whole caffeine TV thing crashed on us, Lubie.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a guy that was just sending out all kinds of clips of shows on social media. And this particular clip, I was absolutely stunned, had over 500,000 views, at least, or hits. And all of them, of the 500,000, 499,999 people all thought I was the biggest schmuck on the planet. And they weren't holding back, Lubie. I mean, the comments weren't particularly flattering, Lubie, as I made the statement that anybody that bets on preseason football is flat out of their mind. And to the tune of almost 500,000 people. Think about this. 500,000 people could have swung the election, and we wouldn't be putting up with all this garbage that we're dealing with right now. A $200 million ballroom for the White House. To do what?
I love that. That's so fun. And it's making it gross. It's not like any aesthetic anyone would want. It's like Vegas 1970s.
It looks like a strip club.
It's like Vegas circa 1970s.
Yeah, the old Sands Hotel. I mean,
yeah.
What are you doing? Hey, could you put another piece of gold up there? That's great. All right. No, I mean, it's hysterical to think that this is where we're at. But yeah, I mean, that could have swung the election. The 500,000 people. No, I mean, was it less than 1 million votes? No, it was a couple of million.
He won. Well, I mean, again, spread out over certain states, it was vastly less than 1 million votes. I mean, in the states that pushed him over, it was a few thousand.
Yeah.
So yes, that would have swung a lot of things. The action that was on the Hall of Fame game.
499,999 people are telling me I am a complete asshole and know nothing because they were all making tons of money. They were just using the NFL as their own personal ATM machine because they were betting unders under the total in preseason football games, and nobody was scoring, man. As they say, they couldn't score at a Heidi Fleiss pool party. All of last year. That was the way it went. Under, 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 under. So I'm thinking.
We all thought.
And, well, I mean, you were looking at a very tepid total there. I guess it changed a little bit. Gurgle said he had it at 31 on a hook at the Hard Rock.
Jesus.
The line that I saw was 32.5. I believe it might have escalated all the way up to 34 as people were jumping on the over last night. And usually when you're jumping on the over in a preseason game, you may as well just be jumping off the Dania Pier with cement shoes.
The Lions made your life hard. The Chargers.
I was an advocate though of the idea that the bookies are not going to continue to get rhymes with ducked all preseason long again, because obviously many people were on it. If 500,000 people were calling me out for being an asshole, or for suggesting that you were crazy for betting this, then many people had to be cashing tickets on the under in preseason football games last year. So what does that usually mean in terms of the mathematical adjustments that most bookmakers would make? And places that are booking action, they're going to go ahead and try to tempt you into betting the under, and hope that that's where you go this year, that you continue to fight the trend, which is that you're insane for even dabbling in this to begin with. How could you possibly have predicted, Lubie, that Dan Campbell, did anybody know this, that Dan Campbell was going to go and have a linebacker return the opening kickoff last night? A linebacker. When have you ever seen a linebacker ever return a kick or a punt in the NFL?
I missed. So that's how they got to the 7. I missed the opening score. I came
opening score. Linebacker Lance Stewart takes the kickoff. Good hard-nosed Dan Campbell type of run right up the middle there, as if he was running through the gauntlet on the Oklahoma drill. Runs into his own guy. A head-first run into his own guy, who was kind of being backed up a little bit by the oncoming tacklers, and fumbles the football as a result of running into his own man. Very close call on that, but it was clearly a fumble. They go to the replay, ball's on the ground, and all of a sudden you have the Chargers taking over at like the 27-yard line. They're playing Trey Lance, former number 1 pick, number 3 pick overall. Imagine that. First-round pick, I meant to say, but number 3 overall, 2021. How much of a reach was that, Mel Kiper? What do you think?
They traded up. Remember, they traded up to get that pick to then.
What's wrong with their scouts on this
guy? Seemingly very wrong.
But now, I mean, he certainly would loom as a more likely guy to have success in a preseason game against a bunch of Amazon delivery guys.
Yes.
Than Kyle Allen, 5 years in the league, 5 different teams, Lubie.
Yeah.
Does that not suggest that it's not exactly, a resume that you look at and you go, wow, they really believe in this guy. He's 5 different teams in 5 years. It's like Dan Orlovsky was in the league 12 years. Who could believe it? Did you even know that, Lubie? That Orlovsky, 12 years in the league.
Yeah, he was like the Peyton backup forever.
Yeah.
The job that like you knew you were getting paid to never play because Peyton never got hurt.
So what are we basing this on? You got Campbell throwing a linebacker to return kicks. You've got Kyle Allen versus Trey Lance. Lance plays into the third quarter in this game. So here's a kid that the San Francisco 49ers, they haven't made a lot of mistakes on quarterbacks over the years.
No.
I mean, think about it. They draft Joe Montana in the 3rd round. And, the guy they have now is a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, were they dead wrong with this Trey Lance, who's now with the Chargers? And who even knew he was with the Chargers? And he comes out and looks like he's got the Midas touch last night.
You look good.
Perfectly timed balls. These little rollout plays were working. The Lions, I figured the Lions defense was going to be suspect because who were they going to play? They can't afford to play anybody.
No, they're not taking chances of playing anyone.
They can't even afford to play their second stringers in these games.
Not after last year.
Yeah.
Like I would be everyone.
And as bullheaded as Campbell might be about, okay, we got to do throwback type of stuff here. Let's put some leather helmets on and dig into the trenches. That's where we're going to win these games. He's not stupid enough to go ahead and realize that he's playing an extra preseason game.
Yeah.
Why would he make his guys vulnerable in that particular spot when he already was suspect defensively because of the fact that he either has guys that are coming back from serious injuries or has already had more subsequent injuries that's going to demand that he digs into his depth chart there and finds somebody who can. My favorite saying of all now in sports is somebody who can step up.
Yeah.
Somebody has to step up.
I mean, look, I don't know what to take from that performance because, again, I don't think the Lions were playing any.
It was meaningless, yeah.
Players. So I'm not saying Trey Lance got vindication or anything like that. It was nice to see a guy that was written off and forgotten. Looks like he's earned a backup spot, so that's cool.
Maybe, yeah. Under what circumstances, though? Like you said, I mean, a lot of conditionals out there if you're actually going to rate this as being anything worthwhile. Anyway, the over was accomplished fairly early on in the third quarter. There was a doinked field goal by Dicker the kicker for the Chargers that had people sweating a little bit, but 34-7, the final, 41 points the total. The underdog wins the game, and I'm not sure what kind of price you had to lay to take the over in that spot, but the trend immediately reversing from a year ago where everybody was cashing on the unders the entire season. All right, a flurry of activity, Lubie, around the baseball trade deadline. Flurry of activity.
Yes, and I love that the Marlins were barely involved.
The Marlins traded Jesus Sanchez for a package of prospects. Probably nothing that anybody would get overwhelmingly distraught about. It seemed like a good move, did it not? Jesus Sanchez,
well, it's from
good player.
The Astros, right? To me, I mean, that would be the kind of organization you'd want to go and sort of raid their minor league system. They've been able to, without spending tons of money, consistently win. So you would think that would be through their farm system. So Sanchez actually was playing well lately. So it was sort of annoying to see.
I like him. He's not great, but he's all right.
They mostly got a decent haul for him. A guy that is getting older. He's not old, but getting older, was going to probably get another contract. He's playing decent baseball. So, again, if you're going to make a move with an organization, we've seen Bendix so far at least be able to make moves and accrue actual talent that will then play, which we haven't seen in this organization in the last 25 years. So I like that move, and I like that I think, like what's being reported, and I love Craig Mish, and he does a good job with the Marlins, and he's a friend of the show, but I have conflicting feelings about, like, he's like, oh, the Marlins decided to go for it. I'm like, I don't think that's what happened. I think
going for crap.
I think they would have traded Cabrera or Alcantara, which is fine.
They were begging people to take.
Further, no, they weren't though. I think they.
No, I mean, they at least held out for whatever.
That's my thing. I think they would have traded them for a really good trade.
Right. Okay.
And that's fine because look, you're still 7 games back. You didn't think much of this year going into it, so I don't need you to be buyers, obviously. So that's fine. Like, if you can get young talent that will be ready to play next year, like they did with Stowers last year, that's fine. That's about where you are. However, like we've seen in years past, where they just feel the need to trade guys and get whatever they get back, even when they're called hauls. If something's a haul, all 4 players can't suck. Like like the Monte Harrison trade, that was this haul. Not one of them became Major League Baseball players. So it clearly wasn't a haul. Bendix so far in the trades he's made has gotten players that he's been able to use. If Cabrera and Alcantara out there, and we heard from that the other teams were not putting up their best players, their best prospects, then don't trade them. Like this, like the old Marlins would have forced trades with Cabrera and Alcantara, and you never would have heard of the players again. Like, I actually appreciate that Bendix was like, look, we would trade these guys, but we're not giving them away. We are right around. We're still sort of in some kind of interesting distance for the wild card. We're 3 games under 500. We're the hottest team in baseball the last 2 months. I'm not just giving away my players. So a lot of Marlins fans were bitter. I'm like, what do you understand? This is what they haven't done. Good for them.
No, that makes sense. So look, if Alcantara continues to look good the rest of the way,
trade him in the offseason.
Contribution, and you can trade him in the offseason. Exactly. There was no necessity. What is what I'm trying to say? No necessity to go ahead and force a deal. As you're yelling at a guy who's trying to shoot a ball out of the corner there while he's been double teamed. Don't force it. Don't force it. Don't force it. So they didn't force that. They didn't force it with this Quantrill, who had a good start last time out, and Cabrera. So maybe that was good, but I believe you can get sucked into a very delusional position. You're not inclined to do this, but our good friend Jim Sarni, of course, is all in on the idea. Well, that shows the commitment.
No, I don't think that's what it was.
It doesn't show squat, Jimmy. I'll tell you why. Because the Marlins operate under the premise of the myth of the Sisyphus, which I found is not as difficult to spell as I thought it was going to be. It's Sisyphus. Get that indelibly impressed there in the cranium, Jimmy, because as soon as they roll the rock all the way to the top of the mountain there, boom, all of a sudden they go all the way back to the bottom. They've done this a zillion times. They'll do it again. So if you're all in thinking this Bendix, who didn't Jonah Hill now recently, is he shooting Ozempic or something? Because he lost a bunch of weight, supposedly.
I haven't seen him in forever.
He will play Bendix, though. Bendix, Jonah Hill, slight resemblance there.
They do look alike, yes.
No? You don't think so?
They do. I looked it up. They look alike, 100%.
We got the professor standing by. Professor, I want to bring him in to the show here. This is always good. Professor, how are you, my friend?
I'm deeply enjoying the Marlins trade day talk.
Lubie's optimistic here, but
I'm not optimistic. I just like that they didn't force trades. I don't think they're buying in or contenders or anything like that. I just don't like making trades with teams that are trying to treat you like you are their minor league system. Like the Marlins should not be any team's farm system. So I appreciate not trading guys just to trade them.
What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, a big breakdown there. Marlins baseball, woohoo.
What do you want to break down?
Like, I mean, honestly, I was enjoying the Hall of Fame game. The post Ben Johnson era, off to a flying start in Detroit. 4 turnovers.
5.
Dan Campbell quoted after the game and said, "Good Campbell."
Andy,
Dan Campbell.
He's stipulating, Andy, that Campbell had 5 dimes on the first play being a fumble at 40-1.
I enjoy that it has to be a conspiracy as opposed to Dan Campbell just being a moron. That's, keep Kyle Allen in the whole first half. He only turns the ball over every time we it was brilliant football.
If there was ever a throwaway game.
Trey Lance looked like a Hall of Famer on your, Lions football 2025. Like, honestly, I feel bad about it because this has made me someone who wants to kick the Detroit Lions, the NFL said franchise, but I dislike Dan Campbell so much that it's actually turned into that I'm actively cheering for the Detroit Lions failures, which, feels like picking up
I love Campbell
in the 3rd grade class. Yeah, you love Scotty Scheffler too. So
no, I love
you're
Campbell.
attracted to human garbage.
I love the Cro-Magnon man approach. I really do. I mean, it's throwback stuff. You can hear.
You're like Trump, who did the president physical fitness thing, and brought up Triple H, Bryson DeChambeau, and Harrison Butker to do the announcement.
There you go.
You brought up 2 steroid abusers and a kicker.
By the way, too, will you be in observation of Hulk Hogan Day today? It was declared by.
Yes, it is Hulk Hogan Day.
Yes.
I'm going to celebrate in the traditional fashion by having a sexually uncomfortable relationship with my daughter and giving the big
a lot of roids.
Giving the big boot and the leg drop to a minority neighborhood. So
I like when he was telling kids to take their vitamins. It was suggested, hey, is that orally or by injection? I mean,
say your prayers and take your vitamins. Hulkamania running wild.
Look, all over Florida, they're celebrating this guy today. The governor has declared it.
Honestly, is there going to be a big celebration somewhere? We're going to have a Hulk Hogan parade? I don't know.
All right, we'll get into some more things with the professor. You're breaking down conferences, according to Lubie.
We got. I said for the last few weeks we're going to start talking about futures, and I thought we'd start today with the ACC and the Big 12, where we do have some interesting numbers. So we're going to talk about that and hopefully get to a big board.
We'll get to the big board for sure. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. Now that it's 8:34.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently,
Don't gamble in anger.
She hit the daily.
Very calm. Think it through. If you need a little help, don't gamble in anger.
I get a panic phone call, and he says, "Do you have any extra cash?" I go, "Yeah, I brought money with me to Atlantic City." He goes, "Well, I can't get any more out of the card because the Mustang went wild and emptied the daily allotment of cash."
Double nickels, man. She went for a nickel on her card and a nickel on mine.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Talk about casino face, right? When you get shut out at the ATM machine at the local casino.
Is there anything worse than when you forget to arrange with the bank that I want the daily allotment bumped up, and you get out there and you're off the 400 or 500 a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Number, yeah, it's
But 400 or 500 in Vegas doesn't last long.
Then you start considering, like, is it worth it to get that advance at 22%?
Oh no, that's criminal activity. You have to sign over a quick claim deed on your house.
Exactly. Give your house
6 ticks so you can stick around and
they pre-break your pinky finger just to let you know,
just to get you ready.
Classic. All right, the professor, ready to roll here with some college football stuff. Interesting. I was bizarrely looking at odds that were posted in the New York Post, which I'm now getting not just on time, but like fabulously early in the morning, and consistently so. But they had odds to go undefeated in various conferences. One of which was, and I do remember, they had the ACC. Clemson was the favorite to have a shot to do that at like 2-1, maybe a little over 2-1.
Wow, really? With
undefeated honestly, in conference play. In
conference play.
Now
that's a little different. Okay, because I was going to say, given that Clemson's got LSU and South Carolina on the schedule,
no, it was not for the season.
Ambitious.
Strictly conference.
I think
Would you ever make a bet like that? Or would you make any?
No, that's ridiculous. I mean.
Like betting on the preseason in the NFL.
No, I mean it's not quite that ridiculous, but it is a pretty ridiculous number. We'll start with Miami, actually.
Yeah.
Sitting at 9.5 total for the season. Remember, these are regular season numbers. Conference playoff games don't count. Bowl games don't count. Playoffs don't count. But Kane's sitting at 9.5 for the season, and you're basically going with no insurance on the Mario factor if you're taking the over on that number. Notre Dame to start the season. Kane's currently 2.5-point underdog. Florida, a couple weeks later, sandwiched between that is Bethune-Cookman and USF. Again, USF's actually been kind of frisky against Miami in recent years. Now, the one thing you could say about the Canes is in terms of their conference schedule, fairly friendly. They miss Clemson. They miss Georgia Tech, who's obviously an annual bugaboo since the Hurricanes. They do go to a road trip to SMU, probably the toughest ACC game they have. They do have NC State, who a lot of people think are going to be improved, down here late in the year. That said, the Hurricanes, I think they only bring back 9 starters, but I believe it's 3 along the offensive line, 2 along the defensive line, including the 2 most NFL guys, or most NFL-ready guys in the defensive line. Obviously, Carson Beck, who people expect good things. I think this number at 9.5, I'm an under player. I assume Mario's going to screw up a game. Notre Dame, again, at best a coin flip from a Canes perspective. I would probably make them a little bit heavier and underdog given the returning personnel on both sides of the ball. Notre Dame obviously runs the ball very well with Jeremiah Love. The Canes did not stop the run very well. I would be an underplayer here, but I don't necessarily think it's great play. And then I think, honestly, FSU's total at 6.5 is one of the most interesting numbers in the country. And I'm not trying to, give Lubie a heart attack or fight with him about this. But there really are two perspectives on FSU last season coming into this season. The top one, the one that FSU fans are taking, and the one I kind of lead to is that everything that could go wrong did go wrong for Florida State last season, and it led to a disaster every year. But there's an equally valid perspective to say if you look at the schedule for Florida State last year, it wasn't that difficult. Yes, they did have Notre Dame out of conference, but Florida was down. The rest of the out of conference was not noteworthy, and the home road breakdown wasn't that difficult for Florida State. So that within that perspective, how much should you be anticipating for Florida State to rebound? Now it's 6.5. Let's be honest, it's kind of an interesting number, particularly for a team that has to start the season with Alabama. And if we flash back a few years, one of Jimbo's last years at Florida State had Francois returning in quarterback off an Orange Bowl winning team. It was a top 10 team. They went into play Alabama. I believe it was a neutral site game. I think it was in New Orleans. Got crushed. Francois got injured. A couple other players got injured, and really started the ball rolling on what was an awful season that finished up with them having to schedule a Division I AA team just to get bowl eligible. And it turned out that they shouldn't have been bowl eligible because the 1AA team should not have been considered ineligible because they did not pass enough players on the APR.
Yep.
So again, 6.5, really interesting number because I think you could argue it either way. You could argue Florida State might very well be an 8 or 9 win ball team if everything goes right, but they could also be very easily a 4-win ball team. And the key question really is going to come back to Thomas Castellanos, who has been fantastic against Florida State in his career, but has been pretty terrible against everybody else in his career.
Yes.
I'm going to say I actually lean a little bit towards the over because I think this is the type of quarterback that Norvell has had experience moving the needle with in the past. He's a very athletic guy. He's very good in the running game, but he is not an accurate passer, even though he has a big arm. But I kind of think Norvell can maybe do something with this kid. I would not be surprised. The schedule is not outside of Alabama all that difficult. I think the Gators are massively overrated, as some people have them towards the bottom of the top 25 coming in this season. The rest of the schedule reasonably friendly. I lean a little bit towards the over in FSU, but I freely admit this is a number that could swing wildly either over or under in either direction. You look at the rest of the ACC, Clemson coming in at 9.5. Okay, they start the season against LSU. They end the season against South Carolina. South Carolina is really good and has played them really well lately. You look at the beginning of the season, Clemson has lost 3 out of their last 4 home openers, including last year where they got bludgeoned by Georgia to start the season. Now, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Georgia's a very good football team, but there were people who thought they were going to compete in this game. The good news for Clemson, second most returning starters in the entire country. After only Arizona State, they are returning 16 starters, including Cade Klubnik, including all his wide receivers. I believe they have 8 returning starters on defense.
Oh, my God.
But to me, at 9.5, you're saying they're going undefeated in ACC play.
Yeah.
Now, the good number on that, they miss a lot of the best of the ACC. They don't have to play Miami. They do have Georgia Tech early in the season at Georgia Tech. That may be the game that takes them over or under on this season win totals. I believe they miss SMU on their schedule. So the best of the ACC, Clemson's not catching it in the regular season. But that said, 9.5, to me, you got to mark those 2 SEC games as losses. So you're saying they're going unbeaten the other way. I probably wouldn't play this one way or the other, but I definitely, if I were going to play it, would play it under. Other interesting numbers in the ACC, Louisville had a very ambitious 8.5, despite not they do start at course of the season. Only 8 returning starters. 2 of them are skill players, running back and wide receivers, who were nice players last year. But 8.5, very ambitious in my opinion on Louisville. I'm definitely trending under there. On the other hand, looking for an over in this group. I really like Georgia Tech to go over 7.5. Bring back a good amount of starters, including Haynes King, who honestly, if you're looking for getting the transfer portal, hype, might be the all ACC quarterback coming into the season. Really had good passing numbers last year, over 70% completion percentage. I believe they bring back 2 starting defensive linemen, 2 starting defensive backs, and 3 offensive linemen. From an offensive lineman that was very good. And again, catch Clemson early in the season, which is probably when you want to catch Clemson in case that LSU loss, and it's at home. 7 and a hook, in my opinion. Yes, they have Georgia at the end of the season, but you have some leeway here. I think Georgia Tech looks very good to go over this 7.5 title, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year, Georgia Tech, again, if Miami or Clemson stumble along the way, if Georgia Tech is somewhere in the mix for that ACC championship game. Like them a lot at 7.5. The rest of the conference we talked about last week, North Carolina, I believe they're only bringing back 6 starters. That's, not a good number. But 3 of them are offensive linemen who are currently not starting on the North Carolina depth chart. So of the 6 starters they're bringing back, only 3 are currently being projected to start this year. 7.5, I think it's a very ambitious total. I think that's and I've seen Joel Klatt last week buying in on North Carolina. It was all just belief in Bill Belichick. I'm not even going to sit here and take a dump on Bill Belichick. I've done that enough over the years.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying he's going to go into North Carolina and be a bit of a miracle worker on day one if you're going over on this number. Again, a team that only won 6 ball games last year, including a bowl game they didn't belong in. I feel like that's a very ambitious year one number for Belichick. And honestly, I just don't see it in terms of talent, particularly on the offensive side of the football. The portal kid they got was at South Alabama, and he wasn't really particularly a passer at South Alabama. He was more of a runner. I think at 7.5, that number is at least a game north of where it should be, maybe possibly 2 games. I personally set that number at probably 6 or 6.5. I'm definitely going under on North Carolina. To look at some of the more interesting numbers in the Big 12, you got to start with Arizona State, 8.5. The most returning starters in the country. Basically, they're bringing everybody back except for Cam Scadaboo. I know America loves white running backs, so everybody's very sad that Cam has departed to the NFL. But they're bringing back 17 starters, including the quarterback, Sam Levitt, who was very good last year, including Jordan Tyson, who is arguably right behind the 2 Smiths at Alabama and Ohio State. After them, Tyson's arguably as good as anybody in the country at the wide receiver position, bringing back 10 starters on defense. And if you look at the schedule, Arizona State's not that ambitious a schedule. I think they're going – I think the Big 12 is going to be competitive, but I think they're easily going over that 8.5 number. And I thought by the end of last year they had separated themselves as the class of the Big 12. Another interesting over here, BYU only 6.5 coming off a 9-win season where they stumbled badly at the end, but they're bringing the quarterback back. I believe they're bringing 3 starters back on the offensive line. I'm really not certain when you look at it. I believe they're bringing back an average number of starters. They're bringing back 10 or 10 starters back, including the quarterback, including the top 2 wide receivers. They did get gutted a little bit on defense, but BYU is largely a replaceable defense anyway, historically over the years. Schedule not that difficult. I think BYU at 6.5, probably the best value as an over in the Big 12. The other team we have to talk about, we can talk about the Big 12. Publicity-wise, it's the Colorado Buffaloes, 5.5. Obvious losses there. Heisman winner Travis Hunter and Shedeur, the most controversial man in the NFL draft. He's gone. They've replaced him with Caden Salter, the quarterback out of Liberty. I do have 8 returning starters. The bad news, 2 of them are on the offensive line, which is not a good thing if you're the University of Colorado. The main thing for me with Colorado is in terms of this quarterback position, you have to totally reverse your philosophy from Shador, a guy who wanted to throw 40, 45 times a game, who did not like to run, to Caden Salter, who was a read option quarterback. And, you look at Liberty last year. In games he threw a lot. He was not accurate. He was turnover prone in the passing game. He's an athlete. He's not really a pure college quarterback. So unless you're going to go from really a spread, almost run and shoot type offense to a read option offense, would be an incredibly difficult transition. I think 5.5 is a pretty daunting number for the Buffaloes. I would definitely be inclined to go under. And honestly, their schedule by Colorado terms, pretty difficult. They catch all the best teams in the Big 12. They have a road trip to Lubbock late in the year. They catch Arizona State. I believe they catch Utah. And they're starting the season off with a home game, I'm sure, against Georgia Tech that I'm sure when they scheduled it 2 or 3 years ago, they were thinking that as a win. I don't know that I want to mess around with Georgia Tech. I think they're a pretty solid football team headed into this year. I think 5.5 is a pretty ambitious number for Dion and the Colorado Buffaloes. I would look at under with that, followed by, if available, a departure for Dion to the NFL now that his boys are gone.
Wow. Excellent stuff, Professor. I mean, thoroughly researched there. You know that Lubie holds Dion as a coach in Lombardian type stratospheres. And so under 5 and a hook on that one. That's the one you drew me into the most.
I agree with him.
We'll be rooting against Colorado the entire season and hoping.
By the way, since Sarney asked, Boston College sitting at 5.5, lost their quarterback, do return. And again, Castellanos sort of up and down as his BC days. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. The schedule's really not that difficult for BC, but they don't return a ton. I believe they only have 12 returning starters. Most of the defense, but the defense at times was not that good last year. Only returning 1 starting offensive lineman. Honestly, it's not a number I'd want to mess with one way or the other.
All right. Very good, Professor. The matter in hand, as always, the top feature of our weekly programming here, which is saying a lot about the work that Lubie and I put in on the show. But no, it's always great. I think it's the outstanding streaming segment offered anywhere. By a wide margin, the big board. Are you ready for that? Because
we have some backstory here, which is that Travis Hunter, who we talked about with Colorado, the Heisman Trophy winner, has done one of the stupidest things in sports, in my opinion. One of the things in sports I hate the most, which is that Travis Hunter announced this week that he is giving himself a nickname.
Oh, Jesus.
And he wants everybody to call him the Unicorn, which, number one, that's a terrible nickname. I know that it's become fashionable in the sport of basketball for these pituitary freaks like Chet Holmgren and Kristaps Porzingis, who are 7'8" and like to shoot 3-pointers, and they like to be called unicorns. If you're in the sport of football, you do not want to be called a unicorn because you're not going to be talking about your uniqueness and your specialness. They're going to be like, yeah, what is that? Did you grow up reading My Little Pony? You're a sissy. Like nobody so. And this flashes back to the days where Dwayne Wade tried, which is really where I did the heel turn on Dwayne Wade, where he decided he wanted him to give himself the nickname 3. Yes. And Lubie was like at the press conference, the first person to play along with it. Like, excuse me, 3. I want to ask a question.
To capitulate to that, Lubie, was a low point in your reputation.
One of the worst ideas in sports are guys who try to give themselves their own nickname, not just because it's dumb, but because they always pick terrible nicknames. That was the theme of this week's Big Board, which is the Big Board of the worst NFL nicknames that ever. Some of these
very appropriate,
are self-granted. Some of them are not. And we'll just roll right into it and go with number 5, which I actually kind of feel bad about because I feel like I'm like punching a dude in a wheelchair by picking on this guy. But number 5, Mark the Sanchez, which again, like I kind of feel bad for Mark Sanchez because like what else could have gone wrong for Mark Sanchez? Like he started by leaving early when Pete Carroll tried to guilt him to come back to USC because Pete Carroll knew there were major sanctions coming down. He wasn't going to be at USC much longer, and he wanted Sanchez to come back to get one last national title out of the deal. But Sanchez left. He went to a Jets team that had a defense that was ready to contend for a Super Bowl right away, but had no surrounding offensive talent. So they needed him to be like a Pro Bowl quarterback from day one, and he just wasn't up to that. And he gets there, and he's given this nickname, the Sanchez, by Rex Ryan, who we come to learn basically just loves to engage in low-grade racism because he can't get over the fact that his quarterback is part Mexican. So he gets there. He gives them the nickname the Sanchez. He starts doing stuff like when it's Taco Day, he says, "Oh, we're doing this for Sanchez." And, America plays along because a Mexican quarterback is apparently funny to everybody. And he's given this awful nickname, the Sanchez. Like, that's an awful name.
Yeah.
One of the worst nicknames we've seen in NFL history, to a guy who just couldn't catch a break. I mean, let's be honest about Microsoft. The butt fumble could have happened to anybody, and really in the bigger picture meant nothing in that game. I mean, so it was 52-3 instead of 45-3 because of the butt fumble. But Mark Sanchez is going to have to watch that stupid highlight once a year for the rest of his life while being called the Sanchez to people. I actually feel pity for Mark Sanchez, but it's an awful nickname.
Sanchez would have been more likely.
Exactly.
As has been the case with most highly drafted Jets.
Again, and if you watch Rex Ryan back in those days, America a lot more tolerant of low-grade racism. Like, yes. It could have been a lot worse. He could have started calling him the Frito Bandito or something along those lines. Because everything with Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez stemmed from the fact that Rex Ryan couldn't believe his quarterback was part Mexican. Like,
didn't they throw Bob Greasy or Brian Greasy, off a broadcast for a while because he referenced tacos, or was that Bob Trumpy? One of
I don't know, but it didn't do anything to cancel Rex Ryan. We didn't do that until we found out about his disgusting foot fetish.
All right, number 5, the Sanchez, among the worst nicknames ever in the NFL. Number 4.
That takes us to number 4, which is, and this is another guy I actually like. I find Booger to be very underrated as an announcer. He doesn't freak out. He has a good perspective. I've always liked the guy, both as a player. But, look, I get it. It was the nickname your grandmother gave you, and you continued to use it because you wanted to honor your grandmother, who was very important in your life. But be honest, you didn't picture being 45 years old and everybody still calling you Booger.
Yeah. It looms as a rather.
You thought at some point in your life you were going to be able to turn that around and people would start calling you Tony or something along those lines. When you were using that when you were like 20 years old, you didn't really think, your wife was going to call you Booger for your entire life.
It has disgusting connotations. I mean, right off the bat, what's the first thing?
That's all it means.
Well, again, we go.
Not like you little booger, as in small,
Well, I'm sure that's actually what his grandmother meant. Yeah. But again, and he, by the way, seems to be a good dude. Like, you see him on the broadcasts, and he's not yelling.
You might be right. He was shamed, unfortunately, disgraced with the Boogermobile. Again, an allusion to a bad nickname. And when they had him riding up and down the sidelines there, like he was driving an ice cream truck.
Again, I get when you're Booger McFarland and, people who watch you play realize that if you wanted to, you could crush their skull with your hands, and people are naturally scared of you. You want a nickname that makes you seem, gentle, giant, and a little more harmless. But again, you didn't picture interviews 20 years later where Ryan Day is calling you Booger repeatedly on national TV.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'm with you on that 100%. So number 4 is Anthony Booger McFarland. Bad nickname.
Number 3 gets you into a guy, and we're going to start the trend now of self-given nicknames. And this one always drove me crazy, and that is Freddie Fred X Mitchell, who called himself started calling himself Fred X because, quote, he always delivered. And at one point on his website was trying to sell T-shirts with FedEx, where he had taken the FedEx logo and made it FredEx. And FedEx, of course, stepped in with a cease and desist.
Yes.
Like 3 seconds into selling them. Why? Because you were Freddie freaking Mitchell. Like, you're not good enough to steal our corporate logo. It's an embarrassment. Like, if Jerry Rice wants to start calling him Jer-X, we'll probably let you use the logo. But you're Freddie Mitchell. Like, come on. We're too big and too reliable a company to let you do this. Like, we can't be FedEx, have you selling our logo, and you're out there dropping 4 passes from Donovan McNabb in the NFC Championship game.
In and of itself, though, not an ill-conceived concept there on the part of Freddie Mitchell.
If he were a better player, it would have been a
Yeah.
great concept. He called himself Fred X because, quote, I always deliver, except you didn't. You were like just another guy, wide receiver. You had a couple decent years with Philly because Donovan McNabb was a pretty underrated quarterback. But as a wide receiver, you ain't nothing. I mean, as soon as T.O. showed up to town, you saw your ass got dropped like
he's why they went about T.O. He wasn't a number one. He was barely a number two.
The self-induced nickname, too, I think adds immediate
well, again,
points to the idea.
When you're stealing a company's name and logo.
And you're
if you don't deliver, also on top.
And that company wants absolutely nothing to do with you because you're Freddie Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell probably would have got more respect.
Exactly.
All right, that's number 3, Freddie Fred X Mitchell. Number 2.
Number 2, another self-appointed nickname, and I almost feel bad because I'm going back on my word here. We said we were going to stop picking on this guy 2 or 3 years ago after a season where it felt like I did nothing but pick on him every week. But for this particular topic, we have to bring him up, and this is another self-given nickname, and I did not know that this was self-appointed. I had no idea, although given the guy, probably should have known it, and that's Dangerous Russ Wilson.
He actually gave himself that?
So, I didn't know this, but it actually given himself like 3 nicknames before this, and then when he got to Denver, settled on Danger Russ. Before that, the first one he tried apparently when he got to Seattle was the Asterisk. I have no idea. Other than Russell Wilson does seem like the kind of guy that would name himself after a grammatical point. He tried Mr. Worldwide at some point. I don't know because what's the worldwide? We don't like you. And finally, Danger Russ, which again, number 1, Russell Wilson seems like a guy who nobody has ever called Russ in his entire life. Like he very much seems like a guy who everybody has called Russell.
Yes.
Like no, it's never been Russ or Rusty or anything like. He feels like a guy that even when he was in like the 8th grade, his gym teacher was like, Russell. So going with the Russ just feels forced. And then Danger Russ. Like, I'm honestly, I got to be honest. Among NFL players, you feel like one of the least dangerous human beings. Like, you had to go and do that Subway commercial where it seemed like you were talking to somebody tied up in a chair.
Yeah.
That you had kidnapped just to prove your Danger Russ name.
It's kind of like his Batman, right?
When you went to Denver and you couldn't play anymore, on top of everything, the only Danger Russ was to your record. And I guess
Peyton Manning took him seriously. Yeah,
I guess this was a better nickname than Russell. My teammates hate me, Wilson. But honestly, if he should have gone with he hate me because it turned out Richard Sherman and the entire defense did hate him.
Hated him. Yep.
Unfortunately, that one is not in a category because it's not an NFL one, but you would have to say all-time classic, right? He hate me, right up there with the nickname I was going to ascribe to myself. She hate me, which was an unfortunate.
Or he hate me too, or I hate he.
All right, Danger Russ Wilson, yes, does seem a bit misguided and inappropriate. So, what's the number 1?
This is actually a very interesting one because there's a very valid argument that this man's nickname was so horrible that it has kept him out of the NFL Hall of Fame. Because there's a very good case to be made that this is the single best player in the history of the NFL who is not in the NFL Hall of Fame. And it is not a self-appointed nickname. In fact, this nickname, this man knew was so horrible, but that back in his Texas days, Texas A&M days, he tried to give himself a different nickname, and it never took. Do we have any guesses who this might be? Anybody?
A&M.
Yeah, I mean, just
again, very arguably, this might be the best player who has not in the NFL Hall of Fame, and that is Lester the Molester Hayes.
Oh, it was the Molester.
And let's try to remember that back in the day, America wasn't obsessed with pedophiles. We didn't hear about Jeffrey Epstein 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even back then, in the 1970s and the 1980s, Lester Hayes knew that being named after a sexual predator was probably not a great idea.
I love the photo with
while
the
at Texas A&M, after shutting down Earl Campbell and the Texas Longhorns offense. He tried to give himself the nickname of the Judge, and it did not take. And it kept instead as Lester the Molester. And I got to say, like, if I were an NFL Hall of Fame voter, I'd probably be reluctant to vote in a guy called the Molester. Although if you look at his career, he clearly does belong in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Deion himself has said this guy was my personal, inspiration to play the cornerback position growing up. Now, he had some other things. The entire league hated him because we know about the Stickum, and he used to slather himself to the point where he looked like he had gone to Earl Scheib and have them spray paint to stick him on before the games. And even after the outlawed Stickum, he still continued to slather it on. So he was unpopular among players of his day. But again, I also feel like part of that is the nickname. Like, if you're going to the club with your girl and they're asking who's coming along, oh, Lester the Molester is coming with us. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like that's going to be
stuck outside.
Why did he
have that good reaction? If you go to the club, you ask the doorman, like, is your name on the list? Oh, yeah, I'm Lester the Molester. Like, I don't feel like
I don't know if you call yourself that.
That's necessarily not, again, worthwhile. He wanted to be called Lester the Judge Hayes. He tried to give himself that nickname while at Texas A&M. He did not want to be called Lester the Molester. And I don't blame him because that just does not feel like a name that's going to bode you well over the years. Like, try to move in a new house. Like, oh, can I have the name for the deed? Oh, Lester the Molester. Like, I feel like you're going to show up on those websites as a little red dot, even if you've never done anything criminal in your entire life, just because of your nickname.
Well, and a guy that was lining up with him, Hall of Famer, and a very distinguished guy, right, Lubie? How many times do we have Mike Haynes coming around on radio?
Again,
Haynes,
very arguably the greatest combination of cornerbacks in the history of the league.
Oh, they were great, right up in your face, both of them.
And Lester Hayes, in many ways, was Richard Sherman before Richard Sherman. They had Haynes as a lockdown quarterback, and they also had Hayes, who was a lockdown guy himself, but also a playmaking cornerback.
Yeah.
Again, the Stickum made him unpopular. His style of play made him unpopular. But I really think at the end of the day, it's the nickname, because nobody voting for the NFL wants a guy called the Molester sitting there with a bust in the Hall of Fame.
I'm sure Goodell has circulated the word to the members of the voting press that, listen, this isn't going to fly. We really can't introduce this guy as the Molester, especially under the current political climate. Excellent stuff as always, Professor. We will talk to you soon. I think I just sent you the link for the Barrier Bookie show. That's coming up in a few minutes. Thanks as always for being with us.
You have a great one.
The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. That was good. The breakdown there, solid on ACC Big 12. So it sounded like he made a pretty good case for Clemson going undefeated in conference play, Lubie. No? I mean,
maybe, but he's also on them on the he's also on them on the under.
On the under, because they have some out of conference games.
And he also doesn't.
How many games constitute the regular season now? 12? For college teams. Does everybody play 12? Regular season games.
I don't know if everyone plays, but because again, the week 0 games, I think it may be an extra game. But yes, you play 12 to 13.
It count as their regular season record, even though they call.
Oh no, it counts.
Yeah,
it counts, but not everyone plays it. But I don't know if they give you an extra bye. Maybe they make it. I think FU did have weirdly 2 or 3 buys last year.
Oh, okay. Let's look up.
So I think 12.
To have to see. I don't know why I want to say that college teams play 12 regular season games now. It seems that way, doesn't it? All right, we have to get out of here. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys later on. From Mike Lubie, Lubit's Professor, I'm Jeff DeForest. Good luck on all of your future wagers there. ACC and Big 12. We'll have more of that coming up in the future weeks. And, of course, always an outstanding job, the Professor, with this week's version of the Big Board. For Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for being with us. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:08.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they